welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 85 for the 4th of June 2010. Richard Saunders here with you. Better this week. My toe's okay and my voice is okay, so I'm pretty happy about that. Thank you to all those people who were concerned. No, I'm doing okay. On this week's show, I talked to my good friends Travis and Dale Roy from New Hampshire, from the Granite State Skeptics. And following that, we have the think tank with Dr. Rachael, myself, and special guest Maynard. Yes, Maynard, the radio host, if you remember from Triple J all those years ago. Still very much active on the radio, of course. I don't have anything else to add to that. That's about it. So, sit back, grab that root beer, and enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Travis Roy is the co-founder and president of Granite State Skeptics. With over 10 years' experience in the IT field, he uses this experience to leverage technology to advance skepticism on the grassroots level. Dale Roy, vice president of the Granite State Skeptics, is a high school physical science teacher with 8 years of experience in the classroom. She brings her science background and experience to the skeptical community with her vibrant energy. Along with monthly skeptics in the pub meetings, Granite State Skeptics has been involved in press communications and conducting investigations of allegedly haunted locations. And joining me all the way from Hillsborough in sunny, tropical New Hampshire, it's Travis Roy. Hi, Travis.
Hey, Richard. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Now, I don't think New Hampshire's really that tropical, isn't it?
Not really. It's been warm lately. We had a 95-degree day the last week, so it gets up there.
Wow, I wonder what that is in real temperature. Don't worry, I'm sure our listeners can convert later. Now, I'm very interested to know, why did you get started, or what's your interest in skepticism?
I think it mostly stems from my interest in science and technology. I've always been kind of a geeky person with computers. My wife's a science teacher. And then I think what really struck it home for me, especially recently, that caused me to get a little more active was that my brother-in-law is a little out there. And that really polarized me to get information and get involved. So I think that's basically where it comes from. But I've always had a little bit of an interest in science and technology, and it's keyed into skepticism quite a bit.
Can you point to any of the great skeptical figures or science figures that also encouraged you or inspired you?
Back in the early days, probably Stephen Hawking, watching a lot of that. The Mythbusters, of course, is a big inspiration to a lot of us. And then once I started getting into podcasting, listening to podcasts, of course, the SGU and your podcast, along with Brian Dunning's Skeptoid.
Right. Yes, that's great to hear. Well, I'm pleased. I'm pleased we're helping to make a bit of a difference out there. It's surprising how many people come to the Skeptic Zone via the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. I must thank Steve and give him a bottle of scotch one day for that. Now, tell me a little bit about New Hampshire. What's it like, and what's the skeptical movement like there?
New Hampshire's pretty interesting. We've been going through a lot of changes lately. When I was growing up as a kid, it was very conservative, more religious. It's now starting to lean a little more to the left. People are starting to be more vocal. I've lived here all my life, and I'm 33 now, so it's been an interesting 33 years living in the state to see the changes.
You're seeing that the state is sort of changing a little bit. Was it like the Deep South? Was it not very critical up there, or what was the story?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't quite that bad. It was. It was just. There was religion, but it wasn't really pushed on you. It was. It was just. It's kind of hard to explain because we were kind of in the middle, and now we're moving more. I don't know how to say it. I don't really want to say liberal because we got kind of a free state movement that's moving in that's more libertarian, but it's just an interesting dynamic of people because there's little pockets within the state that are very different. Manchester's very forward thinking, more open to new ideas. The out in the Keene area in the western side of the state where our mutual friend Kitty's from is kind of hippie-ish, and then the further north you go, the more conservative it goes, and way up north it actually is kind of I don't want to say like the South, but much more religious and
However, until recently, I don't think there was an organized skeptical movement, and now, of course, we have the Granite State Skeptics. Can you tell me a bit about the history of that?
Yeah, of course. Originally, it started probably about 3 years ago. We had a few false starts. It was myself and a friend of mine, and we originally were going to become a chapter of the New England Skeptical Society. And through that, we found out that there was actually an older skeptical group called the New Hampshire Skeptics that ended up fizzling out. And that's part of the reason why we're Granite State Skeptics rather than New Hampshire Skeptics, is we didn't want to be confused with that former group. So after a few false starts and not really a falling out, but a different idea of the direction of the group, my friend kind of dropped off and isn't really part of the movement anymore. And then we had meetings here and there, but we didn't really gain much traction. And then after TAM 7, it really energized me to get something going, to really, get my feet on the ground and start running with this. So I started doing more promotion. I started getting more people involved. You were a huge help. Rebecca and Jay from the SGU helped promote some of our stuff. I made some great contacts at TAM 7, and we really started moving forward. And we started doing events and having regular meetings and just having a great time doing it.
What are the main issues that the Granite State Skeptics look at or tackle up there? And I wonder if it's different from other areas of the United States.
I don't think it's really that much different as a whole. I mean, we have our pockets of things like people that are anti-vax, and there's actually a movement that's starting with that, and they're going the whole pro-choice mentality and kind of sneaking people in the door that way. And then I think the one thing that we get a little more of up here in the Northeast than the rest of the country is probably more of the ghost haunting type of thing, because we're the older country.
That's right. Of course, one of the oldest parts of the country, up there, settled and established a long time before many other parts of the country, of course. And yes, New England is famous for its ghosts and in the old days, I guess, witches.
Yes, and actually one of the events that we're planning for hopefully near the end of the summer or early fall is a day trip out to Salem, Massachusetts, where the witch trials happened, and do a walking tour of that town. And I've been there quite a few times, and it's even if you take all that stuff away, it's a lovely, lovely town to wander through. But so yeah, we actually did a haunted investigation this past Halloween, where we investigated a allegedly haunted building. It's now the Goffstown Historical Society. That's the town that I actually grew up in. And I had some contacts, so we were able to work that out. We didn't really find anything. We were able to conjure up some orbs by having Kitty was helping us with that. She shook a sheet, and that gave us some dust orbs. Other than that, we didn't find much there. And then the other thing that we recently did was there was the Granite State Comic Con, which we had a skeptics panel on, and it was myself and a few members of the Granite State Skeptics, and we had the new JREF Director of Education, Michael Blandford, with us. And we discussed ghosts and UFOs, which New Hampshire has a nice history of with Betty and Barney Hill.
Uh-huh.
And, yes, that was great fun. The turnout wasn't quite as good as I'd expect, but we had a lot of supporters there, and it was a really good time. We had a great moderator that played devil's advocate that kind of kept the conversation moving. So, yeah, it's good fun.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that, and I'm sure that it's like DragonCon, of course. They had a skeptical event there a couple of years back, 3 or 4 years back, and the next year they had their own track, and now it's getting into giant proportions. So maybe that sort of thing will catch on up there in the next convention. But I'd love to visit New Hampshire. I'd love to. I think one of my favourite investigations are ghosties, although, like you, I've yet to actually experience or see one, or touch one, or hear one, or whatever the case may be. It's great fun to go around historical areas and creepy houses and things like that, and I'm sure New Hampshire must have its more than its fair share of creepy locations.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the things that came up during the panel was that, if you don't know what something is, then you don't know what it is. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a ghost or an alien. And my wife and I gave the example of the house that I grew up in, which is over 100 years old, and the original house actually burnt to the ground. And there were some creepy things in that house that even now I still can't explain. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was a ghost. It just means we don't know what it is.
Yeah, it reminds me of the house I grew up in the mid 70s to early 80s. It was a very old house built in the 1800s sometime or other. And every now and then we'd hear what we thought as kids was the ghost walking down the hallway when we were in another room, and we'd hear something that sounded like footsteps, but I'm sure there's another explanation. But it was fun to grow up in something that I thought was a haunted house at the time as a little kid. And it's interesting you say you're sort of energized after TAM 7. I wonder if that's because you took part in the Las Vegas think tank.
That must have been it.
I remember that very well. That was great fun, sitting down there in the bar in the huge gambling area and having a group of skeptics sitting around the table there doing the think tank. And we'll have to do another one, I think, in a couple of weeks when we're all at TAM 8.
Yes, and I think that since they know that you did one last year, that we may have a bigger turnout of people this year if we do it again.
I hope so. That was great. And we even had a food announcement. It wasn't a bus announcement, but it was a food announcement, so we sort of did okay.
Yeah.
And, of course, one of the topics of TAM Las Vegas this year, undoubtedly, will be TAM Australia. And I was so pleased to hear earlier in the year when you said that you could not only come out to Australia, but be part of TAM Australia itself.
Yes, I was very excited to hear that, and I can't wait. My wife, Dale, who's also the vice president of Granite State Skeptics, and I we're really, really looking forward to our trip. We're actually planning on doing some scuba diving before heading down to Sydney for TAM. So we actually just started our scuba lessons yesterday, and I can't wait. It's going to be interesting with the huge mass of skeptics, especially I know quite a few people from the States that are going, and I have a feeling we're going to take over sections of Sydney.
I certainly hope so. No, we're all looking forward to it. Of course, we're all working very hard here in Australia to get it all going. And now I'm talking to Dale Roy. Hi, Dale.
Hi.
Now, you, of course, have a background in science, being a science teacher. How do you find that relates to your skeptical outlook, and does that really give you a good help?
I think that my science background is actually really helped out with my joining the skeptical community and my outlook. I find that the two meld so well together that it allows me to see more of the argument that's being presented to me. So I can come at it from both sides. Whereas before I felt kind of one-sided, where it was like I would only focus on the science point of view and not so much the questions that may be raised around it, which sounds kind of odd, but you end up just getting into this groove and you just follow this path and that's it.
And on the flip side, being involved in the skeptical movement now and learning the new things that you've no doubt learnt, has that changed or helped your science teaching?
Yeah, I try to emphasize more on the thinking and what science is about and not so much on presenting the facts. Science facts are nice, but if the kids can't think or put together information and come up with a conclusion, it's not really useful in any way.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I see your point because myself and Dr. Rachael do science education too, where we get out there and do our little mystery investigator show, which is a great fun. But I try to take the angle of entertaining and capturing the interest of kids when we're teaching science, instead of just sitting down and telling them that it works this way. They can all be involved with it.
I try to do that with my class as well. I try to be less of a orator and more of a entertainer, and I try to do a lot of activities with them. So sometimes it works out for me, and sometimes I've had a hard time with it for certain topics that I have to cover in the classroom, but I do my best to not just talk at them. So I wish I could be more like your show and be more entertaining and less rigid and following curriculum to a certain point.
Oh, okay. No, I'm glad that you are actually making an effort, because I think it will make a difference in your science education to take that angle, and I'm very pleased to hear that you're doing that. Now, what's your involvement with the Granite State Skeptics exactly?
I attend meetings and I help Travis try to set up speakers. He's really the person who's taken control of the whole thing, and I would say, I guess my role right now would be trying to get him to communicate to me what he needs done, so I can be more helpful. He kind of he's more of a take charge, and he has an idea and he's going to go with it. So I try to assist as much as I can.
Do you do investigations too? Have you visited a haunted house?
Yes, I attended the haunted investigation with Travis and Kitty. I was the one holding the video camera.
I'm jealous. I love visiting so-called haunted houses, and as I was saying to Travis earlier, New England is certainly full of them.
Yes. We have a long, sordid history.
And will I be seeing you at TAM Las Vegas?
Yes, you will.
Excellent.
I will be there with bells on.
With bells on? Oh, we'll hear you coming down the hallway. We're all very excited in Australia about coming over to TAM Vegas. And, of course, you're joining Travis here for TAM Australia. Yeah,
I am. I'm really, really, really excited about that. I can't wait. Been counting down the days.
We're all looking forward to it because we're going to have so many people here, and including yourself and Travis, which will be just fantastic. Well, Dale, thanks for having a little chat.
Well, thank you for having me on.
So back to Travis. Now, Travis, you were very keen and interested in something that I did a little while ago about the magical power balance bracelet. And I think you were very active on Facebook. Maybe our listeners would like to hear about that.
Yeah, so shortly after you aired your show about that, I know we had some discussions about it, about how it was done, and then I started looking on Facebook, and some of the Australian skeptics down there, most notably Dave the Happy Singer, was really kind of leading the charge on getting the official Australian Power Balance Facebook fan page taken down. And by the time I got involved, that one was already down. But the international one, or I guess the U.S.-centric one, was still up. So with the help of some of the Australian skeptics and myself and a few other people, we really started bombarding them. And one thing that was really interesting, that was a huge win for us and was such a boost to our movement, was that there was one person that was she was like, "Oh no, I have one. I know it works. It's a great product." And we kept hammering her, and we're like, "No, listen, don't listen to the power balance bracelet guys, but don't listen to us either. Do this test." So I laid out a protocol for her to test it, very similar to the one that you did on that news program. And she did it. And she realized that it was placebo. And then immediately, and she's still a big supporter of us, is immediately she started helping us, attack the claims that they were making. And it was probably a week after that they took down the site. And I mean, we made complaints to Facebook also, because it was very clear that they were setting up, shadow accounts, that they were only friends with each other and friends with people that worked for the company, and it was only a handful of people, and they were new accounts. And we really don't know if Facebook took the page down or if they took the page down. The more it goes on, the more I think Facebook did, because if you still go to the Power Balance website, they have a little icon to go to their Facebook fan page, and if you click on it, it just brings you to your default page. So I'm leaning towards the fact that Facebook took them down, but regardless, I don't really care. It's not there anymore.
It's nice to hear that somebody actually, a believer, actually was open-minded enough to question and test their belief. That's all too rare.
Yes, we were all very happy about that. But then further on that, when you guys had the report about finding the wholesaler, I forget the name of the website, but the Chinese wholesaler where you could get them really cheap, I decided to start looking into that. So I went to the website and I did some digging, and the problem with that is that the minimum orders are huge. You did 500 items, 1,000 items, and I'm not going to buy 500 power balance bracelets, no matter how cheap they are. So I started emailing them asking if they would supply samples, and one of the companies actually agreed to give me the 3 samples for free. I just have to pay for shipping, and it was coming from Hong Kong, so that was like $25, but it was worth it to me to actually get my hands on some real power balance bracelets and use them in a skeptics in the pub kind of setting to demonstrate how they're used with your applied kinesiology technique that you showed on your YouTube video. So it was really interesting, because the guy was like, "Oh yeah, what colors do you want? What kind of packaging do you want?" There was all different kinds of packaging, and there was like 12 different colors, and I'm just like, "Oh, send me a whatever, red one, a blue one, and a black one, and you pick the packaging because I don't care." And so those should be showing up any day now, and I can't wait.
Now that's given me an idea. If we had a red and a black or a blue one, or it doesn't matter what colors they were, you could have a whole new scam about this only works with your, we have to look at your eyes. What are they? Oh, they're blue eyes. Okay, now we must use the red power balance because you've got blue eyes. And then you could do the test and it works. And here, try the black one. You see, it doesn't work at all. We might look into that.
That's actually a pretty good idea. Or match them up with your auras.
Yes, that's right. What are your aims and goals over the next, say, 2 or 3 years with the Granite State Skeptics?
Ooh, geez, that's a tough one. I'd like to do more events, and I think the biggest thing and our biggest challenge will be getting more speakers for our monthly meetings. Being where we are, we don't have a lot of bigger name people passing through like Boston or New York or other bigger cities do. So it's kind of hard to get some speakers in, but we've got some lesser known people and some local professors and at colleges and such that we're starting to reach out to get some decent quality speakers, and just that, and expanding the group and getting more people involved and just getting ourselves out there. and the other big thing is probably media attention. We did have a small piece in a statewide paper when we did our haunted investigation. I'd like to get more of that. I was actually reached out to today by a local city paper to start writing for them, and I'd like to get more opportunities like that.
That's exciting. That's exciting because the more you can get your name out there and the more you can become a contact for the media, I think the more important that is, or that will become very important in the future. And I was going to ask you what media reaction you've had to your group.
Well, the only thing so far, like I said, was that article that they did during the haunting investigation. It was a very simple article. It was basically 10 questions or something like that. I forget exactly what it was called. But the reaction I got to that from the skeptical community was very positive. And from the since it was a ghost hunting thing, the ghost community, ghost supporters, we'll call them, community was very interesting. I got a lot of pushback on the comment section of the online version of the story, and they were really pushing me and trying to trip me up, and they were like, oh, well, what about this and what about this? And they were sending me links to these pictures, which were horrible orb pictures. And they were like, oh, you have to go out with this one guy because he sees stuff all the time.
No.
You go with him, you'll see stuff. So it was mostly that, but I kind of let that stuff go by the wayside and just focus on the positive.
That's great. Yes, I certainly know where you're coming from when you say you're getting letters and comments like that. Now, I'm very keen to keep supporting the Granite State Skeptics because I love people who get out there and use their own initiative and don't wait for other people to do things for them, as you're obviously doing, which is fantastic. How can people find out more about the Granite State Skeptics and support you?
They can go to our website, granitestateskeptics.org, and come to our meetings. Usually we have our meetings the second Monday of the month in Manchester, New Hampshire. The full details are on the website. Other than that, just shoot us email, shoot us an IM, let us know you're listening to what we're doing, and that's about it. That's the best we can hope for. Come up and say hi to us at TAM, either in Vegas or down in Australia. We really appreciate it. We're going to have stuff to hand out while we're there, so we're really looking forward to it.
That's it, everybody. If you're in that New Hampshire area or the New England area, make the trip or drop Travis a line. Have a chat with him. He's a great bloke, as we say in Australia, and a good skeptic, and one of those people who are really helping at the vital level, the grassroots level. So thank you to Travis, and thank you to Dale, and we'll see you very soon at TAM.
This is Desiree Schell, host of Skeptically Speaking. Check out our website at skepticallyspeaking.com and listen to us live on CJSR 88.5 FM in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I now return you to the Skeptic Zone.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
That's all right, Dr. Rachael. You're allowed to sneak in a glass of champagne. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oi. Cheers. Cheers, Maynard.
Cheers. Hello, Maynard.
Hello. It's great to be here at the Drunk Tank. I've heard so much about it. And its original venue was the Oxford Tavern, the topless venue, but it's been changed due to medical advice.
Medical advice?
I believe so, because I've been doing a study there as to see if any women go to that tavern. And on the 87 investigations I've made, so far there have been no other women there. But, I will continue my trek.
It's a bit of a quiet think tank this week. We've found a new room here at our favourite club down the street, haven't we, Dr. H?
We have. It's very busy out the front tonight. Lots of people running around and making too much noise. So we've literally come to the bowels of the club, Richard, which is usually where they have lifestyle classes, whatever that means. So
yeah, well, they're like lifestyle condoms, except it's for classes often.
could be that. I don't know.
But I'm glad, of course, Maynard, our special guest tonight in the drunk tank.
Now, I must say, I didn't pay attention at school. I left at the end of year 11. I have no training in everything, in anything. I only went to Stan's Bar briefly at the University of Newcastle, and that's it. So I'll try not to say too much that is uneducational.
That's good enough for us.
Yeah.
That's good enough for us. And, of course, Dr. Rachael, thank you again.
Thank you.
For coming along.
Coming along,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, I've just noticed, sorry, I was distracted earlier because I just noticed as Maynard was giving us his qualifications that he's wearing a Shorty Awards brooch on his denim jacket.
Of course I am.
Very good.
That's the one I gave you at Skeptics in the Pub last month.
That's correct.
Isn't it?
And let me tell you, Skeptics in the Pub is a pretty wild thing. If you haven't got along to it, you're really being a fool to yourself and a burden to others. By the way, after my appearance on Skeptic Zone a while ago, I was called a token skeptic and a closet skeptic, and I do accept that because I enjoy the world of woo too. You guys think things through a lot. I don't always think things through a lot, so I'm often sucked in by stuff, but I love being sucked in.
I think there are a lot of closet skeptics out there just waiting to burst out.
It depends what you mean by a closet skeptic, I suppose, because we find with our experience, many people, once they discover what skepticism is about, they find there's a name for how they feel and how they think, and that's when they identify themselves as a skeptic. But prior to that, they have the same sort of ideas as the skeptical community without actually knowing there's a name for it, don't they?
They do, and they often have the wrong impression of organised skepticism. I met a guy the other night who said, I don't like that James Randi, he doesn't want to believe anything, and I put him right. I said, no, that's not the case at all.
Well, some skeptics have a reputation as being a bit of party poopers. If everyone's believing in magic and you go up and go, oh no, I can see how the rabbit comes out of the hat, what's the fun in that, you see? And some people think skeptics are that.
But you know what? Actually, one of my very first introductions to skepticism, Maynard, was magic at a skeptics convention. And magic is so much fun. Even if you know that you are being tricked and that it is a trick, it's still fantastic. It's still great to see the skill of someone being able to trick you, and particularly when you think you know how it works and you still get tricked. I think it's even better that way.
Good, yeah.
Well, I think my favourite magicians in the world, and I think many skeptics would agree, would have to be Penn and Teller.
Nice guys. Yep.
I do enjoy the stuff they do, and while a lot of people might not agree with a lot of the attitudes they put out on their show bullshit, they're certainly being sceptical about something on that series.
They certainly are, to say the least. Now, I have a few little notes to get through. I'm happy to get through these notes. I'd like to give a few shout-outs, actually, before we get stuck into the drunk tank, the think tank.
The drunk tank.
The drunk tank. We had a bottle of champagne.
Can I just say, I was, you were the one that came up with the nomenclature, the drunk tank, Maynard, when I interviewed you for the Skeptic Zone a few weeks ago.
Well, it's only because I listened to one and that's the first thing that came to mind.
But somebody now thinks that Brian Dunning's Skeptoid is something to do with the drunk tank because he has the hot tub of truth. So you may have confused a few people. Can you please clarify that?
Yes, look, Brian Dunning is not within 100 miles of here.
That's true.
Otherwise we would hear the bubbles going in the spa as we spoke. Yeah. So he's nowhere near here. And look, he's just he's a fellow traveller. And I am in constant contact with Brian. He never takes a shower without ringing me first. And look, I actually put Brian onto the big UFO flap that's going on here this week in Australia. And people all over the world might not have heard of the Westall High School incident that happened in 1966. Now, me being like a token skeptic, I would like to believe that there was something going on there. And friends of mine who are ufologists believe there was something going on there. But Brian has conclusively proven that there probably wasn't, and everyone else at this table thinks it was probably just a bit of a mass hallucination. Or, in fact, you were on one of our major television networks.
I was.
Earlier this evening.
Last night, actually. Last night. Tonight, I was on Channel 7 commenting about this UFO incident in 1966, and I'm very glad that I listened to the Skeptoid interview just the day before.
Well, because I passed this on to Brian. I thought, look, if this was a perfect Skeptoid episode, I let Brian Dunning know about that, to do a Skeptoid on it, and he did a fairly comprehensive one.
Did.
He hasn't seen the doco. I imagine he'd probably be able to do some further research on that, but he thought that it was just, there's a lot of big question marks there, and he didn't find those question marks very interesting, was his conclusion.
Well, I think for some of our listeners from overseas, they might not know anything about this incident. So, Maynard, can you fill us in on what happened?
Now, I'm not pretending to be a big expert on this, but basically the facts of the matter appear to be that a group of children saw something flying over Westall High School on the 6th of April, I believe it was, 1966. Yes. And
Hang on a second. The 6th of April, 1966.
666?
Okay. and it appeared to land in a field, and various reports after that. One report was that the army turned up as soon as 20 minutes after the event. Now, if that is actually true, that is fairly unique in Australian history for the army to turn up that fast anywhere. If you rang a taxi in Westall, you probably couldn't get one that fast. So if that actually happened, that means the army did have some interest in it. But there is debate as to whether that actually happened or not.
Yes.
Well, we are talking, 42 years ago?
44 years
44 years ago.
Yeah.
So are we basing the recollections of this incident, and you just alluded to the fact that you were on television to talk about it, Richard. Yeah. Are we basing this on published evidence, or are we basing this on people's memories from 44 years ago?
Well, let me now be not a skeptic, but a bit of a cynic. There's a documentary being shown tonight on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's just hype to promote the documentary. It really is. It's not that interesting a story. There are a lot of people at the time, school kids who are now grown up, who confused, don't know what they saw at the time. Someone's egged them along for the documentary. It's
look, I harken back to another documentary which all the skeptics are going to make a big poo-poo noise, which I've also seen as well, and called "I Know What I Saw." Okay, now I know everyone's going to go, Maynard. But occasionally people see things that they don't understand, and sure, it's a big leap to say, okay, that's a flying saucer or something from outer space. But you've got to accept people's words that they think they saw something sometimes.
Oh, I agree. Yes, we're not suggesting for one moment that people are lying. People really sincerely think they saw X, Y, or Z. But as one of the great things about being a skeptic is you learn is not to trust your memories or your eyes. It's not you can't put that up as scientific evidence. You might be wrong. Simple as that. You might be wrong.
And so the big problem is that in this Westall, there's not much to actually test in this sighting.
No, lots of memories.
But when does it get to a point where enough people have seen something for it to perhaps go into the realm of perhaps it happened?
It doesn't.
It
never does.
If one person can be wrong, 1,000 people can be wrong.
If 400 people apparently saw, how many people? Well, okay, it's been exaggerated now, right? It's now up to hundreds of people saw this alleged UFO. If that many people saw it, and it apparently left indentations in grass or something, right? Why isn't there any evidence? Why didn't aliens walk out, or why didn't they leave some kind of chemical that we are not familiar with on Earth? Or
even in 1966, I thought someone might have had a camera.
Yeah.
Today, of course, I've got 3 on me at the moment. On a phone or whatever the case may be. I've got a high definition video camera in my pocket. Yeah, I carry around with me.
But the thing is, though, Richard, even that doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, we talked about this on 2GB Radio a couple of weeks ago. I was with Dr. Chrissy Wilson, who's a reporter on The Zone, and there was a sighting of a UFO in a suburb of Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
And there were photographs of the UFO, and it was a UFO. It was an
unidentified. Right. It had been taken from the car. Those shots, hadn't they?
Yes,
apparently
that's right.
So,
yeah, and it was literally it was an unidentified flying object because it was a spot in the middle of a photograph of the sunset. Now, this lady's interpretation was it's an alien ship from Bajubukuga. I don't know,
my favourite planet.
No, it's not a planet we know yet, you see.
I see. Yes.
Well, look, but it was time-coded, and there were a number of shots. So whatever it was, it did travel across the field of view there. So there was something there. The camera captured something.
I absolutely agree with you, Maynard. But if you looked at the photograph, I don't know if you've actually seen it, but if you look at the scale of how big this object would be, if you scale it up because the shot was a landscape shot with the road, some trees,
and a street light.
and a street light.
Yeah.
If you scaled it up, it would have been as big as one of those alien craft that you might see in Independence Day or
a blimp, at least a blimp.
Yeah, huge scale, like
and
a massive
you think
scale.
somebody would have noticed.
So, how did only one person manage to see that? One person at sunset, which is peak hour time, when everyone's driving, everyone's going home.
And she was a UFO
one
enthusiast.
Person managed to take that photograph.
Look, I'm trying to sit on the fence here. Because it is a skeptics podcast, so I don't want to say, well, maybe if we're looking at some interdimensional thing here, maybe not everyone can see everything from one angle. Or let's pull something out of sci-fi. A cloaking device can occasionally be seen from some angles.
Richard just spat coke everywhere.
Yes, I think it's the first time cloaking device has been used on the Skeptic Zone.
I think you're right.
Except in reference to Harry Potter, of course. No, your Harry Potter show, that was great.
Well, Maynard, you've opened our eyes and uncloaked us.
But can I just say, though, just because this is a skeptical podcast doesn't mean we don't entertain ideas of ufology or cryptozoology or the unexplained. We do, and that's what we love to do. That's what we do for, investigations, is people write to us and say, I have an alien growing out of my head. I can demonstrate that to you, and we go and visit them, and if there is no alien growing out of their head, then we say, you might have a cloaking device that is unknown to science or humans yet.
I actually spoke to somebody once who, without giving any names, of course, who had entities growing out of his legs. Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, really. That's another story. But let me backtrack a little bit. Let me just mention a few things. And we can talk about
Maynard
some more.
get us off track?
He did.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to shut up over here, but I'm a troublemaker. I mean, look, anyone who's been to my website, that's maynard.com.au, will know that.
He's worse than Dave the Happy Singer.
Yes, he is.
He is. All right, I must give a big shout out to Carl Larson from Chicago, who wrote to me saying that he was involved in a foot race, called the Soldier Field 10 race, which he took part in and had a good time apparently. But he was sad to see that Power Balance, the old applied kinesiology people with their magic wristband with a holograph, was a sponsor and apparently had a stand there and was doing the tests that Skeptic Zone viewers would know was the subject of our video just recently. And he was quite dismayed to see this, and he wrote to the organisers expressing his unhappy state.
Disappointment, perhaps?
Disappointment.
Is the word you're looking
That's
for?
what I was looking for. So thank you, Carl, and thank you for taking the trouble to write to those people.
And speaking of your implied... your
implied kinesiology.
Implied.
I like it.
Because,
implied kinesiology.
It's implied. It might actually not be happening. Your applied kinesiology, which I have trouble saying. Like I said, I just went to the end of year 11. There's a comment on that video on YouTube, which was only got put in an hour ago as we were doing this, by a viewer called Burpwind. And,
Burpwind.
Good morning, good evening, good day, Burpwind. Burpwind wrote, hilariously good video. You should have got some everyday Joes on the street to do this, just for shits and giggles. Now that phrase would indicate that this person at least has a master's degree and that they're English as well,
Possibly
I would say.
So, yeah.
You guys and girls made my day, thanks. That's from Burpwind.
Thank you, Burpwind.
We're glad you enjoyed their video. I thought it was pretty good too. I thought Dr. Rachael looked great, particularly the scene shot with her at the Pons Institute.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes,
in her lab.
Despite what I tell listeners, I do actually work at the Pons Institute.
Another shout out. Listener Robert Wilson has reminded me that there is a great publication from the Australian government, called The Little Black Book of Scams. Black Book of Scams. It's a free download. If listeners just Google Black Book of Scams, you'll find it. And it just goes through money scams, and it's even got a section on psychic scams.
Really?
Clairvoyance. Yeah, absolutely.
So is it a list of people that are perpetrating scams, or is it the way they do this?
The way they do it. What to look out for. If you're approached by this, or you see this, or you get this sort of email or this letter, it may be a scam. Little Black Book of Scams. We go on. Thank you to listener Ian Fagan for writing and sharing his thoughts with me. Thank you very much. A note from our friend Kylie, who reminds me that our good friend Dr. Chrissy from the Skeptic Zone will be speaking at London Skeptics in the Pub on the 8th of this month at 7 p.m. And listeners in London can go to the website http://london.skepticsinthepub.org, and Chrissy will be talking about her adventures in Australia.
Will she?
Yeah.
Will she be naming names? I mean, will be shaming people?
Well, I think so. I think so. That's worth going to, listeners in London. And finally, David Willard is written to me with an interesting story, which certainly Dr. Rachael was across, about a clairvoyant called Laurel Trickett from the Central Coast, just north of Sydney.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, my mum alerted me to this, actually.
And your mum? Yeah, your mum. Now, Laurel, the Daily Telegraph newspaper did a story with her where they took her to a cemetery, they gave her a list of names, and magically with her divining rod, she went to the gravestones of these names. Of course, we don't...
Is that because she can read and she looked for the gravestones?
I think that could be something to do with it, and we don't know how it was set up. Although, judging by the video, the reporters didn't randomly choose the gravestones, which is a big mistake. They went and said, oh, we'll use this one and we'll trick her and we'll use it. No, forget it. That's a really crap way to do it. Anyway, next thing you know, they're taking her out to the outback to look for the body of a British tourist called Peter Falconio.
Yeah, now, Richard, this was a very famous case in Australia, and you're familiar with this because it was covered on The search for Australia's most...
Yes.
Whatever psychic.
Yes.
Insert curse word here. Now, for listeners who don't remember, Peter Falconio was a backpacker who came to Australia a number of years ago and was driving through the middle of the Northern Territory on the Stewart Highway, which is the main road to Darwin from Alice Springs. And he was accosted by someone halfway across, and he was subsequently murdered, and his girlfriend was
bound. But she escaped.
She escaped.
A great, amazing story.
Yeah. Her name's Joanne Lees,
yes.
And there has been a man arrested and charged for...
And sentenced.
And
I can't
Peter's,
think of his name. Bradley Murdoch, wasn't it?
Bradley Murdoch, yeah. But he's never revealed where he left the body.
Yeah.
So, of course, this leaves the floodgates open to psychics to say, well, I know where the body is, I'm going to find the body, which is what you found when you were doing The One, right?
Yeah, when I was doing this program, The One of the challenges set for the contestants, the so-called psychic contestants, was they flew them out to the area to look for the body of Peter Falconio, which I must admit that I and my fellow judge, Stacey
DeMarco,
we both found that in pretty bad taste. It was an unfortunate thing that they do that. At least the producers gave me the opportunity on the show, which went to air, to say that this was not a good thing and psychics shouldn't be used in this aspect. However, the body has not been found, and it is an open door for psychics all around the place to say, I know where he is, I've met one who said to me, he's buried in this place, or he was fed to the pigs, I think she said. So anyway, it's been like an open invitation for psychics all around the place to say, I know where this guy is, I know where this guy is. So they took this woman out. Laurel Trickett, to the outback, and they spent days with her running around, digging everywhere. She didn't find a thing, and they even put her to the test by hiding bits of her jewellery around the hotel.
This is what I find so interesting about this story, Richard. She failed on every... a possible opportunity about finding the bones of
Peter Falconio.
About finding the bones of Peter Falconio.
Yeah.
But then they took her back to her hotel room, and she lost her way to her hotel room.
She couldn't find her
hotel room.
Yeah.
And then one of the people that was doing the story hid several of her items of things, including some rubies of some description, and she couldn't find those either. And she apparently, eventually, according to this report, went hysterical and said, someone's stolen my jewels.
That's right.
And the person that was working on this project said, they're in the garden over there, in that garden specifically, and she still couldn't find them even when she knew which garden they were in.
And typical of these sort of people, and I have every reason to believe from long experience that Laurel Trickett is sincere and she really believes she has magical powers. She was using divining rods to find these things.
Yeah.
However, when everything failed, she just simply blamed the other people around her for giving off negative energy and tricking her and all the rest of it. It's what these people normally do.
Yeah. I'm interested in your opinion about this, Maynard.
Look, Look, even for the Daily Telegraph, it seems like a strange thing to do because, a few people got a nice trip up to the Northern Territory out of it. It is an interesting story to read, whether we succeeded or not. There's going to be some interest in this. I'm just surprised they didn't test a little bit more before they left, but still, it's a story. And with that headline, what was the headline again? Digging for Peter Falconio, a rod for our own backs. A lot of people are going to click and look on that. So as far as, it might not be quality journalism, but it is a story.
It is, and you're right. The thing about reporters is, and I'm not denigrating reporters here because it's the general public, what we do is a specialised thing. They don't know how to test a psychic claim. People aren't taught how to do this.
And also, and whether it's true or not, people are still going to be interested in reading about it. So, and this woman, it might be interesting reading the story, hearing about her personality, about what she thought. So there are other things that make that a story worth reading. It just may be...
This story is worth reading because it's a good example of what happens when these people are taken out and given a real serious test of their abilities.
Yeah, I disagree with you, actually, because I think there's a point with this particular case, as an example, where so many people have done this before. And I think if you were the girlfriend of Peter Falconio, still in the UK, and the parents of him, still with no answers as to where his body is, to me this is absolutely offensive. That someone who is deluded and is being entertained by journalists to go and look for the body of your loved one, your boyfriend, your son, is absolutely abhorrent to me. And I think at some point as a journalist you have to have an ethical level where you just say, no, I'm not entertaining that.
That's a good question, Maynard. When does the ethics overrule the story?
Well, look, as someone who doesn't work as a real journalist, and when people confuse me as a journalist, I get very upset because I'm not. I'm just an entertainer who just happens to say stuff from time to time.
But you know journalists.
I do know journalists. They work in the same building as me, and they drink a lot harder than I do. My God, do they ever. Journalists like that, you're supposed to check your facts, you're supposed to make sure what's going on there, but I think we disappeared over the horizon a long time ago when you're expecting a fair bit of responsibility from commercial journalism in particular.
I think you're right.
Because, you only have to listen to, any commercial radio show, and the news department is marginalised in pretty much all of them. Even a place like 2GB, they call it rip and read, and a lot of that goes on. You don't have your exclusives anymore. There's not the money for people to go out there and investigate stuff themselves to the degree that you're...
When you say rip and read, you mean rip the story from somewhere?
Yeah, from AAP or whatever, and just sub it for whatever you're doing and read it, because often that's all you have time to do, particularly if there's only one or two people on duty at the time. So mistakes...
And they have to pump out a news bulletin. Well, GB will do on every half hour.
That's right. They're probably better resourced than a lot of commercial newsrooms. But, what's going on there is the content on the speakers on the air, and they're the ones that are going to be breaking the stories and talking to people on the phone. The newsroom are just going to be doing your basic stuff. And look, that they do the job they have to do, but I just think your time pressure and your money pressure means that mistakes get made like this.
Yep, I absolutely agree.
And also look at the headline again. You see his name, people are going, oh, Peter Falconio, what's going on with him? Yeah, people will have a look at that page.
It reminds me of the show I was on last night, Today Tonight. They have a half hour of content they have to fill 5 nights a week.
That's right. And also, in the time slot they are, you can only do pretty much G-rated stuff. So I don't see the show that often, but I imagine stuff with diet stories are big because everybody wants to lose weight.
You know what comes up?
You know what? You have
to say the same thing.
Hang on. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Bras!
Oh. And of course, a lingerie fashion parade of some sort. Yeah. But boobs and bums are going to be big because obviously you can't show too much, but like a fashion parade because it's fashion. So, and look, and I've done these stories. Covering a fashion parade is fantastic. You just go along there, you film it, you talk to a couple of models afterwards, cut it in with some footage of reaction shots. Done. There is your format.
We're laughing,
really easy.
We're laughing because you can guarantee that at least once every month, either Today Tonight or A Current Affair will have a story about the new bra.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
They know.
Wow. All sorts? What, the ones you can inflate up and down?
Anything. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a story about a bra, they know that people watch.
I wanted to bring back the peekaboo balcony ones. I think they're fantastic.
I beg your pardon?
What? The peekaboo balcony ones. They were popular in the 50s. They were they're so well made you could put your drink on them at a party.
They create a veranda for
They
you.
do. They create a veranda. It's fantastic, yeah.
Now, this is another interesting thing, Rachel. We've had a wonderful gesture by a listener. I mean, we're just absolutely knocked out by this.
We have. Now, this started because you always make me work late on Friday nights, Richard. And once again, I'm here on a Friday night working. And I sent a Facebook message a couple of weeks ago saying that I was at work, I was late, and I wanted a drink. Now, someone wrote back to me on Facebook and said, I work at a winery, can I help? And I wrote back immediately and said, yes, you can.
Can you ever?
Now, it turns out that Michael, who was very kind to send me this message, he works for the wonderful Magella winery in the Coonawarra, which is known as the Limestone Coast in South Australia. It's a cold region. It's particularly well known for red wines. And I know this because I used to work in a restaurant in Adelaide and we were very familiar with Coonawarra wines. Michael kindly sent us 12 bottles of red wine, but there's one condition, Richard.
Oh, what?
Yes, I agreed to a condition to receiving this wine before I share it amongst everyone else on the Skeptic Zone. That was a request from Michael, and that was that you agree not to be Samuel Hahnemann for the next 6 months.
What? But I'm not Samuel Hahnemann.
Oh, I mean that Samuel Hahnemann doesn't appear for the next 6 months. Can you arrange that?
I'll have to have a word with him. I'll ring him up and ask him not to appear. But if that means that, if that's a condition, then I think Samuel Hahnemann will have to agree to that.
Isn't it true, though, that Brian Dunning is Samuel Hahnemann?
Yeah, I think he is, really.
Yeah. I can't hear Samuel Hahnemann here tonight.
That's good. No, he's staying away. He's staying away because this offer is too good to resist.
Okay.
Now, what is the website from this wonderful winery?
It's www.magella, Magella, wines.com.au.
And we would certainly look forward to sharing a glass of that. And we must thank Michael sincerely.
Michael has been amazing sending us this wine, and he is on the team at Magella, and anyone who's in the area, please go there and buy their wine.
What a wonderful gesture from a listener.
It's absolutely wonderful that he did that. And I particularly wanted to thank him because I know a lot about Coonawarra Reds, and so I'm going to appreciate that all by myself.
And that website again?
It is www.magellawines.com.au.
Now, are they doing anything special, like organic wines or stuff like that? Because I remember Brian Dunning did a great episode about organic wines and all the magical, almost magical kind of things they have to do for that.
You're talking about biodynamic farming, where you put poo in a hoof, in a horn of a bull and
That's right, yeah. Because I know there are some wineries that do that in Australia. I was just wondering. I mean, being a skeptic, you probably wouldn't.
Yeah, no, there are some, but I can't see anything. I'm on the website now and I can't see anything.
He probably stomps the grapes himself.
He does. He must. Yeah.
There's something called vertical tasting. I don't know what that means.
That is where if you taste enough, you are no longer vertical.
I'll go along with that. And while he's stomping his grapes, when his feet gets tired, he's definitely not, because he's a skeptical man, he's not going home to his biomagnetic underlay. What a segue.
Now, if you're a Foxtel subscriber like I am, they've started, as well as running ads about you're going to die every 10 minutes, so get some insurance. That's one of the ones that they just keep running all the time. Grandpa, are you dead yet? They have ads like that. But they have this one that I was watching it the other night, and I thought I'd bring it up with you guys, that they seem to be claiming if you have magnets in your underlay, it does all sorts of great things for you. And I thought that this had been disproved a very long time ago.
Well, you know what? I think we're very sceptical about this. Now, our good friend Loretta Marin, also known as the Jelly Bean Lady, has had some success lately. And she sent us this little item. Our good friends at the...
CRP.
The CRP.
The Complaints Resolution Panel.
Yes. Have decided to send the following to a company called Biomagnetic Underlay Products, or Biomagnetic, which advertise regularly on TV, saying, sleep on our mattress with full of magnets, whatever.
Whatever.
Retraction. An advertisement for biomagnetic underlay products, which we broadcast on television, should not have been broadcast. In the advertisement, we unlawfully made claims that the advertised underlay products could provide pain relief, temporary temporarily relieve aches and pains and relieve conditions such as arthritis, sciatica, thank you. I forgot my glasses. Muscle spasms, sore muscles, head pain, and back pain. A complaint about the advertisement was recently upheld by the Complaints Resolution Panel. The evidence we provided in response to the complaint did not support the claims we made, and the panel found that the claims were unlawful, misleading, and unverified and breached the Therapeutics Goods Advertising Code. The panel therefore requested that Biomagnetic Proprietary Limited publish this retraction. The full text of the panel's determination can be found at tgacrp.com.au /complaints.
Okay, Richard, why are you bothering reading this out at all?
All right, the point is, even though that they've made this judgment and sent this off to the company to put on their website, the company don't have to do a damn thing about it.
No.
Which seems a bit odd that you'd bother having a department that can't enforce its own laws. I'm sure there's lots of ones like that. It's like whenever commercial radio makes a mistake, it's always a bit of a slap on the wrist. Where at the ABC we have a whole complaint thing, and we drag. Look, if you make a complaint at the ABC, man, we were really dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
You have to go in and you spend several terse hours with people in their office.
Terse hours.
terse hours in their office if there's a problem.
I think it's the first time the word terse has been used on the think tank.
Yeah, but to put it into a little bit of context, what Richard just read out was a request from the CRP to bioenergetic up your whatever horse's behaviour. I don't know. But the point is that 30% of people that get issued with these retractions do not comply, and the TGA cannot enforce that ruling. So they will tell you that you've made, you've breached the advertising code, that you've breached the ethical code, and then say, can you please? But they don't do it. And if they don't do it, there are no consequences.
Which we found with a company called Homeopathy Plus.
Absolutely.
Which were requested to put up a retraction on their website saying, no, the claims do not stack up, you can't do this. And they said, no.
Yeah, and worse than that, there was a story on Lateline by Steve Kinane about this particular problem, and then the following day, the woman who runs that website, Fran Sheffield, jumped the shark completely and wrote a whole post about how homeopathy can cure cancer and AIDS. And guess what's happened? Nothing. The TGA has done nothing, the CRP can do nothing, and so now she's made even more outrageous claims than what she had before there was a complaint issued.
The thing we can do on the Skeptic Zone, at least, is what I did, and I read out that thing. So the company involved, the Biomagnetic Coffins.
Well, the only good thing about that, I can say, is that if you have Foxtel, one of their ads is on instead of one of those ones about you're going to die soon, so get insurance. Which if anyone has Foxtel and watches it, those ads get really annoying because they're on about every 10 minutes and they repeat them. So this is a different ad to annoy you with. Yeah.
So can I just for context, Maynard, Foxtel is cable television, right?
That's right. It's our cable TV supply, our platform here in Australia, which is Murdoch owned and carries just about everything.
Just about everything.
And Discovery Science is my favourite channel.
Anyway, Biomagnetic Products. That's the company have been requested to put up this retraction. Please. And I'll bet you the next hot dinner, Rachie, they don't comply.
Look, can I use this as a forum to put out a story? I'm looking for story lead. Now, I've made a few phone calls to the producers of the Mythbusters program Beyond here in Australia, and I know that those guys are skeptics as well that work on that show. And I would like to do an interview with the editor, whoever he or she is in Australia, that edits the program, because it's all shot in America, but it's edited here in Australia.
It is.
And the voiceover guy's in Sydney, actually.
Yes, and look, I would really like to talk to the editor, because that's the person who does the heavy lifting and makes that show as good as it is. And
it's a great show.
Yes, so please contact me at my website that I mentioned earlier, and I would really like that. And also, I found out in an interview with Mythbusters that wasn't the original format of the show. The show was originally pitched that you'd have the two guys back at base, and there would be what they called a hot chick. She was actually referred to in the script.
What?
Yes, there would be a third girl who would go out and look into urban myths and various myths, and these guys would be back at home base testing it. So you'd have a girl in a midriff top getting around going, hey, why did that happen, with a microphone or something, and then you'd get back to Jamie and them doing it. But when Jamie they did the original test, they thought that the two guys were entertaining enough on their own.
Yeah.
And they did not need a hot chick, as was supposedly in the original script. So, yeah, that could have been you, Dr. Rachael.
Oh, shucks.
You could have been there going out.
They have Carrie and...
But she didn't come along till later. And if you remember, the first season of Mythbusters, they did have an urban mythologist there.
Did they?
Yes, they had a woman who would be sitting.
They used to cut to her.
Yeah, now you come to mention it. Yeah.
And what happened? Was she one of their experiments that went wrong? Are they covering up on Mythbusters?
Did they blow her up?
Did they blow her up?
She was in the concrete truck when it exploded.
That was cool.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And a big shout out to Jamie and Adam, who I know listen to the Skeptic Zone every week.
Yeah, so please, please get in contact with me, because I want to talk to that editor at Beyond, because I reckon they're doing a great job.
Give your website address again, please, Maynard.
That's maynard.com.au, but I'd like the interview to go out on the ABC, because I want everybody to hear about this, because, I think editors are the unsung heroes. I mean, imagine being... Sure, you'll get like a shot list and you'll get some basic cuts from the producers and everything, but imagine getting all the footage that they'd shoot. See how many cameras they've got at Mythbusters show. I mean, a lot of effort goes into that. I mean, it is a budget show now, and a lot of producers work on it, but doing the actual editing would be, I reckon, most people editors' dream, because you have so many great shots to cut together. I just want to talk to the person who does it.
It's a good show. It's a great show. Everybody involved does a good job, because it's entertaining and informative, we might say. As we hope the think tank is, and I would like to thank our special guest tonight, Maynard. Thank you, Maynard.
Well, look, I hope I haven't been too wooish for you, because I'm going to go home and watch that Westall doco now. I'm going to get salt and vinegar chips and eat them and get excited.
You'll need another vodka, I think.
I think I might. Yeah.
I'd like to thank Dr. Rachael.
Thank you very much, Richard.
And until our next think/drunk tank. Cheers.
Cheers.
I embarrassed myself.
Thank you for downloading the Skeptic Zone. And as you probably gathered by listening to this week's episode, we are very excited to be going to TAM Las Vegas. We're planning lots of things at the moment. Don't worry, we will be bringing Tim Tams, Vegemite, Minties, fill plate, Minties, and of course, Musk Sticks. If you're coming to TAM Vegas, drop by our table and have a nibble. Until next week's show, anyway, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
The Skeptic Zone, a miracle of technology.